We didn't get much rain out of the last storm, so we are going to be able to spray some fungicide probably tomorrow, unless it rains again. Can't go today, it's a little damp, and my tanker driver's mowing his yard right now. No big deal. When someone works for free, you don't really complain when they want to do what they want. It's kind of still a win-win regardless. Why don't we talk about some green today? And not this beautiful John Deere green sitting in the shed. Some soybeans that are nice and green that I've been out scouting just to verify whether or not they're ready to spray. Yes, we are indeed revisiting the planting date conversation. Let's consider this our mid-season update on the effect of early planting, moderately time planting, and late planting in our region. These are all the same soybean variety, except for that one over there. Just disregard that one. This is our March 13th planted Pioneer 38Z63, I believe is the number. Next to it is a March 26th planted bean of the same variety. This is April 16th. And lastly, this small little punk is a May 18th planted variety. All the same, except for the field they're on and when they were planted. What I want to talk about is the development of the plants and the number of nodes, not necessarily the visual size, because that is irrelevant for soybeans. My dad's always told me the stories years ago when a new variety would come out, that it was gigantic out there in the field. They thought, oh, there's no way this isn't going to be 50 or 60 bushel beans, which at the time is probably today's 100 bushel beans. They get out there to harvest it, and it's worse than some of the beans that don't even look that great. Looks are not everything, and a lot of times are really not that important for soybeans. All that matters is the number of pods, the seeds in the pods, and how much those seeds weigh. Those are the three things you need for high-yielding beans. To accomplish the first two things, the number of pods and the amount of seeds in the pods, you need the growing season. You need long amount of vegetative growth combined with nice sunlight. Both sets of the March beans have 16 nodes on them. That same bean planted the start of the third week of April, only 13 nodes on it. So it's really not that far behind the other two. The May 18th planted beans have an uphill battle ahead of them. We're already past the summer solstice. We're not gaining any more days or any more sunlight, so they are trying to grow and reproduce as quickly as possible, leaving them with only 7 nodes so far. In terms of reproductive staging, these are full flower from top to bottom, so they are R2. I believe I am seeing some completed flowers, so it will start podding as we go on through the next couple weeks. Unfortunately for these beans, as I've already mentioned, they just don't have the time to catch up with these April and March planted beans. Over on the March 13th side, if we count from the top 1, 2, 3, 4 fully developed nodes, we have at least a ½ inch pod there on the 4th node. Oh, there's definitely one on the back side. So these are pretty much R4. They're overdue for a timely application of fungicide insecticide. Both of the super early beans probably R4 across most of the field, if not R3.5 to R4. What I've always found fascinating about soybeans, which are supposed to entirely grow based on the length of day, is that the planting date will ultimately affect reproductive stages and harvest timing. This is the mid-April planted bean. If we go 1, 2, 3, 4, definitely R3 beans here. We've got some pretty sizable pods. If anything, they're starting to knock on R4, yet when you compare them to the earlier counterparts, it is still probably a week to 10 days behind those in terms of total growth. We step over next door again to our sad May planted bean, which we always end up having a lot of. It points to the reality that you can't buy back time in the growing season. I'd appreciate all of your opinions down in the comments. Let me know what you think. It's obviously much more nuanced than I've made it seem here. Farmers aren't delaying planting out of choice. A lot of times the fields are just too wet to get out a month to 6 weeks early. We have had opportunities the last few years to do so, and I think as I continue to see the visual evidence and hopefully the harvest data here in another 2 to 3 months, it is only going to reinforce the decision to go ahead and plant them in March if you can. At the very least, if they get frosted off, you can replant them in April and still be on a good time frame. If not, it's May and even some cases June, and your yield potential just really starts to fall off a cliff quickly. Give me your opinions in the comments. That's your agronomic update of July. I finally had enough of it. I'm tired of looking at this crooked rear boom. I took the back section off. Either we are going to completely break it and get a new one, or it will be straightened in the process. I'm guessing that the previous owner backed into something, which would make me think that this one is the bent one. It looks pretty straight though, whereas this one doesn't even look straight. So maybe this somehow got bent the other way. I've been complaining about this wonky rear boom since the first season of spraying fungicide. It is not affecting performance at all. It is affecting morale, and that's more important than anything. I think the mini excavator that's been used twice since we bought it would be a good choice for this project. We're not quite earning our $50 a day to make our interest payment. The cracks in the fiberglass make me think that this is the bent one, and it's bent down. Do I try to bend it up? Am I gonna break this? Could get really expensive if I'm not careful.
Crack the hood, it's metal.
This is metal?
Yeah.
Is this not fiberglass?
I wouldn't mess with it.
I wonder if I could put some like washers in it
Well, that would work. Put a washer here.
to try to kind of cant it back the way it's supposed to be.
Those have nuts on them or what?
I think they're threaded on the inside.
Put a flat washer right in here. No? I put a flat washer here, the one that's bent right there.
I think this is the bent one.
I don't. Look at this. It's flat. This is bent. See it bent there? Here, see it bent?
Dad popped in right as I was about to commence the bending. He looked it over and suggested that I don't attempt this because I may actually cause more serious damage to the hood that would be way more expensive than whatever my pride is costing me internally. Something about these bent rods, they take a toll on your well-being. I'm gonna try a more civil fix once I take it back over to the main farm and just use some washers in here to cant it whatever direction I want it to go. It sounded like a good idea on paper. If my dad, out of all people, suggests that you don't try bending something, you take that advice seriously. He's got the Redneck equivalent of a PhD in bending things. I can't even remember how many rods and bars and different things I've watched him heat up and bend that probably had no reason being bent back. They should have been replaced, but he managed to do so. There was also some complete lack of safety on some of those projects, but he knows what he's doing, and if he thinks that there's a chance I'm gonna break something, probably shouldn't. It's frustrating because I just want this to look nice. We'll go try to just adjust it with the washers. I'm shocked. That actually looks way better. Just not nearly as crooked as it was just 20 minutes ago. Nice work. Tonight I'm making sure that I close the door on the chicken coop that we normally leave open pretty much year round because I'm going to be spraying all of these beans behind the farm. The fungicide doesn't really concern me. The insecticide may be an issue, and I'm sure there's actually a re-entry interval on the label. I don't know if it specifically addresses chickens. We're just gonna remove any questions to that, and once they're all back in the hen house tonight, close the door. They are gonna be a little bit upset tomorrow. We should be all right. For anyone wondering, this chicken is not sick. That is a breed called the Turkin. When I first saw that specific type of chicken at our local Rural King, when we were stocking up on chickens, my first comment to my wife was, man, they're really not taking care of these chickens. They look horrible. To which she pointed out, no, that's just how the chicken looks. And then I said, why would anyone ever buy a chicken that looks like it? And here we are with 2 of them. That one wasn't my choice, but they're chickens. They all lay eggs. Can't get too picky. This morning we are loaded up with Mirvis Top Tempest, which is Helena's generic multiple mode of action insecticide to use on soybeans, and then a foliar product called Kickstand Micro Boost. I'm not sold on foliar fertilizers on beans or corn for that matter. Dad wanted to do it, so I say yes sir, put it in the tank and move on. It's like $5 or $6 an acre for this product. It's not free yet, only takes 3/4 of a bushel, maybe a little less than that, 2/3 of a bushel today's prices to pay for it. With the yield potential of some of these early beans, I could see it being justifiable. I just don't know when we get to the later stuff if that'll be the case. Right when I got out of bed, there was some patchy heavy fog, and in the last hour there's just been some really light mists coming across. I call this perfect fungicide weather. Cool, we're gonna have a nice dew on the plants, get a lot of coverage as our chemical gets diluted across the leaves. I've not seen a ton of insects in the earlier planted beans, but when I go walk the May planted beans, the Japanese beetles are just chewing them up. Could be a relative comparison issue where the earlier beans just have so much more biomass that you don't notice the feeding, or for whatever reason, the later planted beans are getting eaten more. Don't have a good answer for you. My windows are getting a little frosty here. I think we are ready to rock and roll. Bad day to be a bud. The most prominent complaint I get from my passengers in the sprayer during the summer is that I keep this thing like a refrigerator. You can't tell by the condensation on the window. These March 13th planted beans look great. Spraying them crossways isn't ideal because it's a little bit on the rough side. I'm sure it's hard on my sprayer. It just makes the most logistical sense because we actually planned it short ways and the road is back behind us. These beans look great. They're still flowering too, so I think the yield potential is super high out here. There's a couple spots that are a little thin on the light dirt. I think the frost and maybe some poor emergence hurt them. Otherwise, I don't see any reason with another couple rains over the next 5 to 6 weeks that these couldn't break a record on our farm. This isn't even one of our best fields either. Just got a good early stand and we've had good weather. Got some kind of a leak there. It's got to be coming out of my Y strainer. I'm gonna hop out before I've sprayed anything and see if I can just tighten it by hand. These are the April 16th planted 38Z63s. Man, there's a lot of dew in there. Pants are gonna be wet. What's going on here? Yeah, I wonder if the O-ring's out of place. I don't see any area specifically that it's leaking, so it's got to be coming around the housing. And that's hand tight. We're just gonna run with it. Look at all that free carrier water we're getting with this dew. It's a pain to have on your pants. No one likes dew on their pants, but it does spread your chemical on the leaves. That's why some people believe in spraying earlier in the morning. You get all of the added moisture on the leaves to kind of expand your surface area, and the plants are cool and their stomata are open, so they're more willing to accept chemicals applied to the leaves. And these two little freaks, they're gonna be going night-night. See you later. around 300 acres sprayed so far, averaging just under 100 acres an hour, which is pretty good. The chickens are watching in fear, locked up in their coop. And it also looks like we should have ran a volunteer corn killer just here on this north end. I don't know what the combine operator was doing. It's a lot on the ground. I just filled up at the farm because it was a convenient location. I'm going down the road to finish what will be my 400th acre of the day. When I woke up this morning, I thought that this would be a pretty easy day until I tabulated that I had 800 acres to spray of early beans. I thought I had maybe an easy day's worth. That wasn't the case. Also looks like my leak is getting worse, so when I get to the next field, I'm going to get out and actually take it apart and look at it. The mid-April corn looks great from the road. Stood back up nicely from all the wind. There's a little bit still laid over and goosenecked. I think if we keep getting the rains, much like our beans, we're gonna have a heck of a crop out here. It should be pretty close to brown silk within 7 to 10 days, so I'll be back out here spraying fungicide on that whole field. Valve. Drain what's ever in here. I'd hate to be a bug under this spot. Filter's clean, O-ring's on, a little bit swollen. I'll just run her back up and hopefully have no problems. I've never had a leak there before. Great. Now I just had a leak here. We spray a fungicide and insecticide on 100% of our soybean acres. We've seen consistent enough data to justify the application and the product on everything without any questions asked. A lot of times the data was showing 6 to 8 bushel an acre, sometimes more, and yes, sometimes less. A lot of people here in central Illinois and probably northern Illinois, southern Illinois, all of Illinois, probably the higher yielding regions, you're spraying fungicide and insecticide on your beans around R3. This is a 3-1 being planted the 26th of March. It's closer to R4. What I'm liking though in my scouting is that there's a little bit of insect feeding, not a tremendous amount. I'm not seeing very much disease at all, as a matter of fact. That does make you question a little bit, should we even be spraying a fungicide? That's really hard to answer as a farmer because from a stewardship perspective, you really shouldn't be applying chemicals that are unnecessary. One, you're adding things to the environment that aren't needed. The complicated part is that there's no real way currently, without scouting every acre of thousands of acres of beans, to decide if you're at that integrated pest management trigger level to justify using some of these products. That's why with consistent high yield returns, return on investment, people just go ahead and spray this on every acre. It's the same way I see corn fungicide. A lot of people don't do it. I can understand why. It's not cheap, yet there's times where it pays so tremendously. How do you judge that risk and reward? And you also don't know the economics of its return until after the fact. There's data that shows it doesn't work all the time. I've seen data on our farm with corn fungicide where there's 30 plus bushel advantage versus a non-treated area. So scratch your head with that. The reason I bring up the necessity of applying these fungicides and how do we decide is a new trait is on the market. You're not going to see it from a large scale perspective probably for a while. It's from a company that I have actually worked personally with since closely after their inception here in the corn and soybean market, primarily soybeans. The company is called Interplant, and the trait they're working on is called Intersoy. I'll try to explain this trait to you without completely mangling what's going on. The trait is something that can be coded to activate a photo-based response to whatever the trait is designed for. So the primary target on inner plant with inner soy right now is fungal disease pressure on soybeans, something that's very hard to actually validate on a large scale. It's impossible to scout everything. The trait triggers a response that you can't see with your naked eye in the field with sensors, and the end goal is with satellite sensor technology, they will be able to visualize disease pressure in a field. So this field right now actually may have very little disease. I'm just spraying it anyways because I think that's the safest thing to do. A product like this, if it reaches the market effectively, and with what I've seen, which is very impressive, will eliminate the need for scouting, could be tied in with some kind of efficient use application technology like John Deere See and Spray, where you can go out into a field of soybeans like this with a satellite generated map, and as opposed to applying 100 acres, 100% of the field, you apply 60 acres. And you save product, you reduce chemical application. We have seen and heard anecdotes where sometimes multiple applications of fungicide pays tremendously on high yielding soybeans. The problem is trying to get that data to repeat itself in a way that allows you to manage it on a broad spectrum. With this trait, you might come out here and either target spray at R3, if that's what the model is showing, or you spray at R3 and then at R5 another round of disease comes in, and that's how you know, hey, we can bump another 10 bushels or save another 10 bushels on yield by coming back out here and applying second time. It's going to be a tool, if integrated into the market effectively with some of our remote platforms like John Deere Operations Center. You get satellite technology, mapping capabilities, to where I think this really could be the next big thing for efficiently managing your crops. Instead of just guessing R3 is the best time to spray your soybeans, this system and this trait and the sensing technology might show you R3 is the safest time to apply without more data, yet we're seeing pressure in southern Illinois at frog eye leaf spot, and it's only R2, you probably need to spray. That's how I think this all can be wrapped into a package that makes us more efficient with the products we're using. Could it cut out a pass? Maybe. That'd be a nice goal, to save on a pass. And there's other times where you have the yield potential and the disease pressure that it can tell you, hey, you need to use 2 passes this year. You need to come back out 3 weeks later, because what we have seen in our testing, and I'm just completely making this up right here, is that that second pass on a high pressure year where you've got the yield potential to protect could pay for 2 times the price of the application, or 3 times the product in the application. Long story short, I'm really excited about this trait. They're slowly rolling it out into small plots across the field. I've seen pictures that I'm not allowed to share of the signaling pathways and the results out in the field. I think it could be really big, especially paired with like John Deere See and Spray, for making us more efficient with our chemical usage. A lot of times I probably come off as, hey, let's just put more on and put more on. Let's spray 2 passes of fungicide on our corn because it's going to boost our yields. I don't know that it always is going to. When you're trying to shoot for the moon, you can't skip a step, so you take all these extra steps, yet you don't know if some of those steps were even necessary, because it's impossible to effectively scout these fields and determine it. I can see this trait, if it's even possible, eventually evolving out into our cornfields where we're seeing disease pressure. Maybe they can show insect feeding. I mean, there's a lot of potential here that is really exciting. I think you guys should look them up. The company's Inner Plant, the trait is Inner Soy. I know they've been working with some of the bigger breeders in the United States to try to roll this out and test it. It's going to be real exciting. This is one of those fields you just love spraying. It's big, it's pretty square, it's flat, a lot of acres. Load a couple times, you're about half done for the day. I moved up north and had to wait on Jeff to bring the next tanker load from Helena. These are another field of the Pioneer 31Z03s like we were just in. Look at how far along these March planted 3-1s are. I'm way late to the party on spraying these. We've got almost a fully developed pod on the second node, and I counted these. There's 18 nodes on this plant. The yield potential out here is just unbelievable. I normally would be a little bit more worried about not having the fungicide and insecticide on, but you scout these plants and there's really not a whole lot of disease on them. Not a lot of insect feeding either. I could have just picked a lucky one. It's still a safe bet to put the fungicide on to protect your yield, but we could have gotten away with not doing any this year based on how this plant looks. And this is going to be short and stout and loaded with pods. These could break 100. This is our second to last field of the day. It's not going to be a record breaker, but I should have 800 acres done by 6 o'clock. That's pretty good. Believe it or not, there was a day, my first year spraying, I believe, where I sprayed 1,000 acres in a day. I also started at 5 a.m., which helps the cause a little bit. You can get a lot done as long as you got a big old tank of chemicals sitting at the field all the time, which Jeff's been providing. He does a good job at it. I don't exactly know what he does all day because it'd be pretty boring unless he listens to the radio, because I know he's not a book reader. Maybe he's a phone guy. The real icing on the cake of today's very productive day is that I only broke one nozzle body that I know of. That's the real savings there at 13 bucks a piece when you start breaking those off all the time. With that one good day of spraying, I am caught up until the next round of beans are ready. Feels good to have that knocked out. The chickens cannot be thrilled about their entrapment today. It's for your safety that you're locked in. Don't want you eating any poison bugs or getting poisoned yourself. Whoa! Where'd you come from? We are currently caught up on spraying before we do a hard fungicide push on corn and then catch up on the rest of the beans. So we're gonna take it easy here until something exciting pops up. Appreciate you all tuning in. Sure hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!